think acknowledging the Honorable Finance Minister, of course, the team from Graphic and Fidelity, it's really important, I think, to continue to focus on the solutions. There's no question, and I think the Honorable Minister has outlined in a lot of detail, awareness of the reality of the situation, but the importance really of taking a collaborative view of how we address some of the challenges. And I have been invited to just say a little bit about what's happening in the investment promotion space. Fortunately, I'm happy to report I have far fewer gray hairs than I originally thought. And I do think it's important to focus on how, from the investment promotion perspective, we are addressing quite a lot of the challenges that have already been articulated several times over. First and foremost, I think if you consider what we're trying to do from a policy perspective, the legislation that has been put in place to support and promote investments in the country, a lot of our attention as an investment promotion center, particularly in listening to the feedback from the business community, is to become much more targeted. I think that the new GIPC law has encouraged us and allowed us to focus on some of those sectors that will help to address some of the challenges, particularly in reducing imports, because we all know how fundamentally important that is to address some of the challenges that we're having in respect of trade deficits. So if I can just focus on that for a second, clearly focusing and improving the quality of investments in the entire value chain. If you look at sectors for instance, in the agriculture space, it's more important to be known not only as a country with the world's best cocoa beans, but also the country with the world's best chocolate. So we already recognize that there's a gap in the investments across the entire value chain. So it's been our responsibility to support the business community to look again at the specific opportunities to invest. And that's why I talk about strategic, targeted investment promotion. What that has led to between 2013 and 2014 is more than double an increase in investments in the manufacturing sector. At the end of 2013, it was $509.89 billion US. At the end of 2014, it was $1.377 billion. And so I think that clearly shows that the targeted strategic approach to inviting investments into our space will support that endeavor. Of course, that also means that we must build a critical mass of companies seeking to produce in the country. That is why our relationships with AGI, with the Ghana Chamber of Commerce, with various business groups and associations become particularly important. And if I can also just dwell a bit on sector-specific promotions. Over the past 2 years, the Centre's investment drive has been focused on those sectors where investments will spur on growth in the wider economy. So attention to supporting investments in our energy space and in the infrastructure space has been particularly important. I think that accounts for some of the improvements that we're seeing in our ease of doing business indicators, which is one of my personal KPIs. How do we ensure that we're facilitating and supporting the business community, even in spite of these challenges, to make their investment process more efficient? And so what we're finding in this year is that all of our outbound missions from the previous year are resulting in a lot of inbound missions with extreme interest in these two sectors in particular. First quarter reports showed an increase in investments in these sectors, and I'm sure when the half-year report is released later on in the month, we'll have a much clearer picture of how we've been able to progress on that score. And again, just re-emphasizing the importance of supporting the business community through this process and holding your hand. Our efforts of our own internal restructuring have been meant to walk the investor through the entirety of the investment process. Again, a lot of our attention is also on the domestic business community. Our belief from an investment promotion perspective is that we cannot and should not be known as an agency that's just interested in foreign direct investment. We need to focus our attentions more on the domestic business community. And so there have been a number of in-country initiatives that have been undertaken by the Center our approach is to increase the capacity of the Ghanaian entrepreneur to meet all of this interest in the medium to long term in investments and ensure that the Ghanaian business community is participating actively in all of these exciting investment opportunities that are available. That is why we have regional sensitization tours that allow us to uncover across the entire country everything that the Ghanaian business community is doing in support of some of these key sectors of development. You all may have heard of that at one point or another. Quite a number of you also participate in our private CEOs breakfast meetings that allow us to engage with the business community and allow you to provide direct feedback to the policy and decision makers on some of the very challenges that you are experiencing. If I can also mention one campaign that we launched this year, the Think Ghana, Make It Happen campaign. The core of this campaign is to strongly and forcefully project Ghana as a preferred destination on the continent. It's much more than just language about coming to Ghana because it's a great place because of political stability. It's taking a very dynamic view of each of these critical sectors of development, how we have progressed, and some of the things that we are seeking to do. So we're very forthright in our interactions with the business community in saying that if the investment will not translate into development, if it will not create the kinds of jobs that we're looking for, if it will not sustain a quality in terms of the skills transfer that are taking place, then we really should not and will not be supporting it. And on that score, we have been probably one of the loudest voices encouraging the business community to look well past sovereign guarantees and some of the things that the Honourable Minister has articulated. Those of you who have been interested in investments from a strategic perspective will know how rigorous our process is for looking at those investments that are targeted at some of our key sectors and for which you're looking past what is in the existing tax code. But our focus is on our partnerships and our collaborations, particularly with the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that you understand the paradigm, what is expected in order to invest. And I think that, again, looking at some of these interventions, we're quite confident that we'll be able to support the medium and long-term plans that have been articulated. Finally, I do think that, again, the Honourable Finance Minister will be delighted to hear it. We as a centre are well on the path to getting off government subvention. Like many will see me smiling. So I think that, again, taking a look at some of the structural issues that have brought us to this point makes it abundantly clear that it's not something that's happened within a very short 4-term medium period of time, 4-year medium period of time. There are a number of systemic issues that we do need to address, and that is why the quality of this kind of discourse becomes particularly important. There's no question in our minds, based on the kind of work that we are being invited to pursue at a much higher level, the pace and the speed and the expectation in respect of investing in Ghana, that yes, indeed, market conditions can fluctuate. However, many people continue to remain focused on the medium to long-term prospects. I think the Finance Minister has articulated some of the projections in respect of the sunset time frame within which a number of these challenges will be addressed. I think that it's also important to look again at the employment creation associated with the kinds of investments that we're pursuing. That would be our request as an investment promotion center to those of you who are involved in business. We continue to be a major conduit for feedback to government, as I said. Again, for those of you who participated, we did last year have the opportunity to work with the Ministry of Finance to engage in the business community, and some of your comments and feedback were actually incorporated into some of the budget planning going into this year. We are eternal optimists at the Investment Promotion Center. I think we have to be. And I think that if I have to base the experiences that we're having, the feedback that we're having, yes, in spite of the challenges, there continues to remain a lot of optimism in respect of investing in Ghana. I would propose that as we sustain the collaborative efforts, we try to focus on the solutions and the interventions that will help us to move a lot faster down that path to upper middle income status. With that, I thank you for the opportunity and look forward to sharing more ideas. Thank you.